Hello my dear friends and welcome back to Sinnoh. Happy New Year, and I hope you all had an amazing holiday season. For me, while the holidays were on, the work on Sinnoh hasn't stopped and I've been busy expanding Jubilife City. But before we dive into today's episode, let's quickly recap what has been built last time. In the previous episode, we completed the Kotobuki district and the southern part of Hisui District. I basically used a lot of assets from Japanese pack, tried to seamlessly blend urban and rural landscapes, transitioning Jubilife City into Sanjim Town, a long road 202 with lush fields and preserved forests as well. And in today's episode, we'll focus on another transition from Jubilife into rural landscape, this time in the southeastern corner of the city. Here we'll create a beautiful agricultural valley featuring Japanese-inspired rice fields nested along a big river. This design not only adds to the natural charm of the area, since agricultural activity typically thrives along river banks, but also provides an alternative route towards Oreburgh City. And the goal is to blend urban and rural elements seamlessly while enhancing the functionality and aesthetics of this part of the region. Next, we'll build a large baseball arena, a home to Jubilife Stars, the city local team. Baseball is incredibly popular in Japan, and I wanted to reflect that here. The arena will include a grand plaza, ample public spaces, and unique branding for the Stars team. This build will replace the previously planned Pokemon arena because Jubilife, as portrayed in the games, feels more like a city for normal people. And I also received a comment about that probably it's better to reserve some custom Pokemon arenas for the gyms and the Grand Pokemon League. And that said, if you'd like to see Pokemon Arena in Jubilife anyway, let me know in the comments. And there is still a place in the northern part of the city, although I would like to reserve it for different purposes for sure. And finally, we'll focus on the southwest corner of the city, the Hisui District. This area will take inspiration from Pokemon Legends Arceus game, featuring elements of Jubilife Village, such as Galactic Team headquarters, where they were actually good guys, and traditional Japanese-style housing to create a historic feel. The district will also include a fancy canal reminiscent to one from the Legend Arceus games, along with public spaces to bring the area to life. And by the end of this episode, the Hisui district will be actually complete, leaving the only part in the north, or Jubilife Kita, to be developed in the next episode. And before we start, don't forget to leave a like to support this video and subscribe if you'd like to follow up on Sinnoh. To start, I needed to address the demand for the elementary school in the Kotobuki district. To meet this need, I placed a fantastic new asset from the modern buildings pack, which I have to say looks absolutely amazing. Next, I decided to address a comment regarding the need of an outfield in the local baseball stadium I built previously. So I added one and took the opportunity to redefine the surrounding area a little bit. And this included moving the tennis courts to a different location, which you'll see me doing in a moment, and also expanding the parking area next to the stadium. And one more thing that might be not that good of an announcement is that basically I got a comment after which I reconsidered using episode numbers in Sinnoh series going forward. And this decision comes after learning how YouTube's algorithm works and noticing that many City Skylines creators avoid episode numbers for the same reason. Basically, YouTube algorithm doesn't like the numbers of the episodes for the reason if the series become too long, the new watchers might be discouraged to see the episode number 34, let's say, because for them it might feel too overwhelming to go and check out all previous episodes. I must admit I'm not entirely happy with this change, but it helps bring more views and visibility to the series, and it is worth a try. I'll monitor the results to see if there is a noticeable difference. But for now, the episodes are going to be without numeric values. That said, for anyone who wants to follow the series in chronological order, I created a dedicated Sinnoh playlist where each episode is arranged in a proper timeline. And for fans of Pokemon Generation 4 games, you will also recognize how closely I try to follow the storyline and geography of the original games while building the cities, towns, and special areas along the routes. One thing I've been debating in my head, though, is whether to build Jubilife City before moving to the eastern part of the island. While it deviates slightly from the original storyline, completing Jubilife City would help finalize the greater Jubilife City area, giving it a feel of a true agglomeration, and Jubilife would act as a key extension of Jubilife, with a major port for both passenger and cargo traffic, and I'm considering adding a rail yard there as well. Ultimately, I might leave this decision up to you guys. I would love for you to have a say in how Sinnoh is being built, so keep an eye out for a poll where you can vote on what's coming next in episodes. Now, shifting gears from urban to rural building, I began working on this area right after completing the local ballpark. My goal was to create a seamless transition into Jubilife where preserving chunks of forestry around the city for wild Pokemon and natural habits would take place as well. This approach aligns with how cities often appear from aerial views, with vast stretches of forest surrounding them, serving as both recreational spaces for citizens and a way to stay connected to the nature. I believe this balance is essential for urban planning, offering residents opportunities to escape the hustle and bustle without venturing too far from the city core, and this area will truly embody this philosophy as well. I also placed housing for wealthier residents in tucked away pockets near the edge of the forest. These secluded spots offer privacy and proximity to nature, making them perfect for high-end living. That said, I'm still planning where to establish a dedicated district for the affluent population featuring modern high-end housing. I'm leaning towards placing it in the northern part of Jubilife City, which is still unfilled, where it can blend sophistication with stunning views and exclusive amenities. Stay tuned as I work out the details for this upscale area in the future episode. Now we are moving into this section where I was experimenting with fields and farms, focusing on creating a mix of natural, irregular farms layouts, while also planning the infrastructure around them. Just to note, this area doesn't exist in the original games, but it is a part of the expanded vision I developed while working on the map. Speaking of the map, I don't think I've shared a full story behind its creation, and when I started I used a detailed overlay I found on Reddit made by Miscellanea Maps. This incredible map reimagined Sinnoh with high-fidelity topography, rivers, and key locations from the games, along with some added roads and anime references. Using this overlay as a guide, I spent a couple of weeks recreating Sinnoh in the City Skylines map editor, and the level of detail and seamless placement of Pokemon locations really motivated me to start this series. Some of the extra roads on the map, like this one connecting Sanjem down to Oreburgh City, made so much sense from the geographical and logistical perspective that I decided to include them here, even though they're not part of the original games. And that said, I'm not aiming to entirely copy the games or the Reddit map. For example, I've included a rail network which doesn't exist in either version. Instead, I'm striking a balance, staying true to the essence of the games while adapting the layout to fit the topography, logistics, city building mechanics, and of course, a little creative common sense, I guess. And to make the whole area of this big river complete, I started with this edge where it essentially forms the southern tip of Sanjem town. And in the games, this area connects to the sea road from the Sanjem beach, accessible only to players with Pokemon that know Surf. And I plan to develop the entire coastline of Sinnoh Islands, and I'm not going to create cities or towns here, but instead I'll add small elements like solitary houses, fields, or forestry to reflect the kind of activity you might see in real-world coastal areas. You may also notice the railway line I've placed here that branches off from the main one, and this line is intended solely for cargo purposes, connecting Oreburgh mines to Jubilife City in the future, and it will transport coal or ore, giving the rail network a clear logistical role within this build. Additionally, I'm incorporating a wild beach area nearby, and this beach will serve as a space where trainers can potentially spot or even catch wild Pokemon that live near the water, adding an interactive natural touch to the environment in this area. While working on builds like this, I often think about how these vacant spots would serve different needs in real life. For this particular area, I imagined it as an ideal location for an agricultural industry complex, perhaps a facility for processing foods or similar operations. This addition would give the area more functionality and create a good number of job opportunities in the game mechanics for the citizens. It is always satisfying to see the region evolve with practical elements that support its growth. On that note, I want to say that Sinnoh is becoming increasingly economically sustainable as Jubilife City continues to expand. Interestingly, the region now generates positive cash flow. While I do play with infinite money enabled, I still enjoy seeing that the budget reflects a profitable and thriving region. One game mechanic I have disabled though is tile upkeep costs, which I find a bit restrictive, and I have all tiles unlocked, so it would have taken a lot of time to cover the costs of them. While it makes also sense in certain scenarios, I'd rather allocate resources towards maintaining roads and services instead of spending them on upkeeping the tiles. And funny fact, it is worth noting that tourism is actually the main driver of revenue for Sinnoh now, with hotels and lodgings bringing in the most income. I think it is a great start, but the region's economy will definitely need more diversification as we move forward. I am excited to see how this evolves and which industries will grow to support the region in the long term. Over here I decided to place one of what will likely be many Japanese-inspired fields, while I aimed to replicate the look of rice fields. I'll admit I'm not an expert, so feel free to share your thoughts on how realistic they appear. And one feature I think I'm missing is the quays or edges that typically define these fields. And to compensate, I've tried to create a similar effect by adding bushes along the borders of each field. So from what I understand, the rice fields are usually excavated slightly to allow them to hold water, and there is often a water system in place like small canals, drawing it from nearby resources like rivers or underground reserves. And if I've gotten this wrong or if there are any details I've overlooked while creating them, let me know. I'd love to improve on this and make them as accurate as possible in the future takes. While designing this area, I kept in mind that not all of these crops would necessarily be rice fields, so there is quite a mix of different types, and to achieve this I've been using an excellent mod from Paradox Mods, which offers a fantastic variety of field assets, and it is a game changer for creating realistic agricultural areas and really brings these rural outskirts to life. While this mod is quite hefty in terms of file size, I think it's still absolutely worth it to be added, into your game for added realism and flexibility it provides. Honestly, it has made my life so much easier when working on areas like this, and I highly recommend it to anyone looking to add more detailed fields to their builds. And yeah guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on this area. And what do you think of the design and how would you like to name it? For now, I've just put an X valley name to it. Since it's a river value, I thought perhaps it could include valley in its name, but I'm open to all kinds of suggestions. It could even take the name of the road leading to Oreburgh City, so let me know your ideas in the comments. Now I'm wrapping this area up by adding this little chunk of land and putting some more rice fields to complete the area. And once that's done, we'll move on to the next part of this episode. Now we are diving into the next build, which focuses on the ballpark or baseball stadium of Jubilife City. I believe this stadium will remain the primary hub for Jubilife's sports scene moving forward, and I decided to replace the Pokemon Arena with this baseball stadium for a couple of reasons. First, I've been reading through your comments, and one suggestion stood out: building a Pokemon Arena in Jubilife might overshadow the importance of future Pokemon gym arenas. Reserving that creativity and effort for the gyms, which play a vital role in the Pokemon world, makes sense. And additionally, in the Pokemon games, Jubilife City doesn't feature any battle-related spaces, which kind of aligns with the normie vibe of the city. That is why the baseball stadium feels like a more natural fit for this bustling urban environment, also taking into account that baseball stadiums were also featured in Pokemon anime. The end result of the ballpark turned out quite nicely, and I think it captures the spirit of Jubilife. And don't worry, there is not much longer to wait for the custom Pokemon arenas. In just a couple of episodes, we are heading to Oreburgh City to work on our first gym. So exciting times ahead. For this particular build, I wanted to incorporate the curved elevated railway line to serve as a defining border for the baseball field. And this feature not only adds structure to the design, but also highlights the stadium placement within the city. Given the current asset limitations in the game, I worked with what was available, even if it meant dealing with few overlapping elements that I'm not entirely happy with. However, I think the result still feels cohesive and functional. And to make the stadium more lively, I used glass front-end buildings to create this striking entrance, blending with commercial and public spaces around the stadium. And this area is packed with restaurants and food joints that you'll be seeing me detailing shortly, and it will definitely create a lively atmosphere for fans and visitors. The plaza surrounding the stadium will also become a major focus of this build, designed as a dynamic space for people to gather and enjoy. Right now, I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy how this plaza has been detailed and brought to life. And what makes the stadium even more unique is the exclusive branding I created for Jubilife's baseball team, the Jubilife Stars. I thought the name was fitting as it connects to Jubilife's history, especially considering the Galactic Team roots in Jubilife Village. With this branding, the stadium feels like a true landmark for the city, blending modern design with a nod to the region's deeper lore. For this project, I also used the help of ChatGPT to brainstorm the name and design the logotype for the Jubilife Stars. And I've been eager to integrate custom logotypes and markings into the game for a while, and this was the perfect opportunity to start doing it again. And as you will see me later in this episode, I'm also applying similar branding efforts to the marts and centers that we have been building so far. And one thing to note is I've decided to be very cautious with how these designs are placed and named, especially to avoid potential copyright concerns. And I want to maintain a creative and authentic feel without stepping into problematic territory as much as possible. And we'll dive deeper into this when I showcase the logos and discuss how they are being used in the game. And I'm excited to hear your feedback on how these branding elements add to the overall immersion of the build. And now we are moving into the final part of this episode. Once the stadium was complete, I turned my attention to wrapping up the Hisui District. After reading a comment suggesting the Red School building I placed earlier should be repurposed as an old Galactic Team building, or at least a nod to it, I decided to take the idea further. So I thought it would be fitting to relocate the whole building to a different setting and surround it with elements referencing the old Jubilife Village from Pokemon Legend Arceus, which I actually played once. Not that necessarily I like the game, but I thought that using some suitable assets that blend historical and traditional Japanese aesthetics, I could replicate some part of old Jubilife Village, so I set out to create a small tribute to it. Given the district's name, Hisui, it felt like it would be a perfect location to symbolize where the city began and evolved into a bustling metropolis it is today. And I'm excited to share how this concept came to life, and I hope it resonates with the fans of Pokemon games. One of the features that I absolutely wanted to include was the canal, which was also included into Legends Arceus game, and to achieve this, I excavated the land and placed a water surface within it. However, I encountered some strange behavior while working on this, and yeah, there is some water bugs that I'm facing right now in the game. I don't know why. So for some reason I couldn't really place the water source that one of the mod allows you to put, and that's why I actually used the water surface. And another bug is that basically right now when I'm loading the game first time from a save, I have to reload it second time because in the first save I would have water completely disappeared from my map, which I don't know why it's happening. And if any one of you faced this or faces this in the game, let me know how to solve it. For now I decided to work around this issue by placing these water surfaces, which still achieves the desired canal fill, and to enhance the look I added transitions in this part where the canal hits the ocean by basically using the rocks and some water foam decals, blending the edges of the canal more naturally in the surrounding environment. And overall I think this canal integration is a test run for what's to come in Jubilife City, where I plan to create a small Venice of Sinnoh. The vision includes multiple canals, possibly featuring reclaimed land to enhance its appeal as a prime location to live. While Jubilife City will have this picturesque charm in some parts, it will also serve as a major port in other parts, which gives me Rotterdam vibes when I think about it functionally. So perhaps Jubilife City will be inspired by a blend of Venetian aesthetics and Rotterdam's industrious character, offering a unique mix of livability and bustling economic hub. Let me know what you think about this idea for developing Jubilife City. Meanwhile, let's move forward with detailing this part of Jubilife Village. While exploring Sapporo's map, I discovered it features a Hokkaido village exhibit, which I believe served as an inspiration for Jubilife Village design in Legends Arceus. With that in mind, we are incorporating elements from both the game and Sapporo example to shape this area in a way that feels authentic and rich with historical character. Once the outline of the historic village was completed, I moved on to adding a mix of housing and commercial assets to the rest of the Hisui area. I kept to the same techniques I've been using throughout the build, focusing on creating a cohesive and inviting atmosphere in this district. The goal was to ensure this area feels like a vibrant and desirable part of the city, seamlessly integrating modern elements while preserving its unique character as well. In this part of the build, I decided to mix things up a bit by incorporating an industrial facility. This facility is designed to handle clean, pollution-free industrial work, blending nicely with the surrounding tram depot environment and making it fitting addition to the city outskirts. While working on it, I thought this building could potentially serve as one of the facilities where Pocket Company produces its devices. In the original Pokemon games, Jubilife City is home to Pocket Company headquarters, which is basically producing a device similar to Apple Watch, but just for Pokemon journeys. And I think in the next episode I'm yet to include its actual headquarters somewhere in Jubilife downtown. I also still need to include the global trade station where players can exchange Pokemon globally. And if you guys have any suggestions for which assets might fit for these two buildings, feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas. And to wrap up this episode, I introduced a few new decals to enhance the Sinnoh world and make it feel more immersive. First up is the Mart, which, as mentioned earlier, I decided to simplify it by dropping the Poke prefix, and I think Mart sounds modern and cooler while still giving a clear nod to its inspiration. Similarly, for the Poke Center, I opted for a more neutral abbreviation P.C, which has even been used in the Pokemon games, particularly in Generation 3, which I played. And these subtle changes aim to modernize the aesthetic while staying true to the Pokemon universe spirit. And to top it all off, I created a custom scoreboard for the Jubilife Stars Stadium, placing it prominently on a large billboard to serve its purpose. While the game currently has some issues with custom decals that aren't square shaped for some reason, I think it turned out well and adds a unique touch to the stadium. And with all that, we wrap up this episode. If you enjoyed what you have seen, don't hesitate to support this video with a like. In the next episode, I plan to complete the main work on Jubilife City, which will allow us to move forward to other exciting builds. I hope you are all having a great time, and as always, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.